So we're going to move into our final presentation for this session. And you've heard a couple folks mention the upcoming large truck crash causal factor study that FMCSA is going to be conducting. And so we'll turn it over here to Bill Bannister, the chief of the FMCSA Analysis Division. Bill is responsible for monitoring the quality of data reported to FMCSA, disseminating data and statistics to agencies and the public, and producing statistical analyses of large truck and bus safety issues. Bill came to FMCSA in 2008 after 8 years at the Bureau of Transportation Statistics and is a 28-year career as a Coast Guard officer. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Brenda. And like Joe DiLorenzo said yesterday, I know I'm the last thing between you and lunch, so I'll try to stay on schedule and get you out on time. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Large Truck Crash Causal Factor Study, or LTCCFS, and it's a mouthful either way you say it. And we're striving to review all of the lessons that were learned and constructive feedback we got from the first study, the Large Truck Crash Causation Study. And we're going to use that as a stronger study this time around. So this is what I will hopefully quickly cover for you. It's been over 17 years since the original large truck crash causation study was done. And in that time, there have been many changes. There have been in technology, in vehicle safety, in driver behavior, and in roadway design. And so this study meets the need for up-to-date data and analysis on how these changes will impact or have impacted CMV safety. And the study will identify current causal and related factors to assist us in creating safety countermeasures. And talking with our partners, we called it the Crash Causal Factor Study because there are multiple causes that are involved in crashes and not just one. So we're building on that original LTCCS study, and again in partnership with NHTSA. And to date, we've met internally with a number of stakeholders. That includes OOIDA and ATA, and both were very supportive of this new causal factor study. Now, to do the study, we needed some funding, and Congress came through and appropriated $30 million to be used for this study. And it's available until expended, so it lasts as long as it takes us to get the study done. And in addition to this money that we'll be using, and I'll explain how in a little bit, we will also be using state truck inspectors, and they will be paid out of the state MCSAP grant money for their participation. I mentioned that we're collaborating with NHTSA. They're helping us with the study design. We plan to use their contracts for their state crash data investigators, and to help with the development of the database that we will need to capture this information. We've also been collaborating with CVSA to help us with getting the state truck inspectors, and in updating the crash notification process and the training of the NHTSA crash investigators in large truck crash investigation. So here's the study timeline, and we are looking at a 4-phase study, and right now we are in phase 1. We published a request for information in March of last year, and we got 167 comments from stakeholders, from academia, and from industry partners. And we've been mining the RFI, all those comments, and incorporating those suggestions into the study planning and the study design. Prior to entering phase 2, FMCSA will need to establish an IAA, an intra-agency agreement with NHTSA. And this IAA and an MOU will allow NHTSA to finalize the study design and develop a study plan based on their contracts to hire the data collectors and to update those IT systems. And in order to finalize the IA and MOU, NHTSA needs to get the final contracts in place, and we need to provide the final scope for this study. So that's phase 2, where they will be doing the study design. We plan on having a peer review of that study design. One thing that we did with the LTCCFS. We will also need OMB clearance to do the survey, to collect the information. And we plan on doing a pilot of the survey before full implementation. And that's primarily aimed at testing out the notification process, which was one of the problems with the original study, difficulties in getting notified in a timely fashion of the crashes. Once we get through that, then we move into phase 3, the data collection. We anticipate that's going to take 2 years to collect the information that we need. And once we get all the data, then we will go into the analysis phase and completing reports. And we will produce a public use data set of the data from this study. So now to give a little contrast from what we did before, here's the original large truck crash causation study. That was also a 2-year study from 2001 to 2003. And the data was collected from 24 primary sampling units. And those were NHTSA's sampling units, or basically counties, that gave a nationally representative sample of crashes so that we can do statistical analysis and draw conclusions about nationwide truck crash causal factors. And in the LTCCS, there were 967 fatal and injury crashes, and they involved 1,127 trucks and 959 other vehicles. There were 251 fatalities, and there were 1,408 injuries in the LTCCS. For the LTCCFS, the plan is to also do a 2-year study. We're hoping to get started in 2022 and be done in 2024. This time we will be using 32 primary sampling units. This is the new crash investigating sampling system that NHTSA has. And that will again give us a nationally representative sample. This time we hope to double the number of crashes. We're looking for 2,000. We are only going to focus on fatal and serious injury crashes in this study. And we're only going to focus on class 7 and 8 vehicles, large trucks. Those are the ones that are greater than 26,000 pounds. NHTSA is going to be doing a separate, different type of study for the medium duty trucks, the 10,000 to 26,000 pounds. So they will have some information on that they're collecting separately in a different type of study. So we're limiting it to just the class 7 and 8 trucks. And our hope is in that 2 years to get 2,000 crashes. This is just a picture of where those 32 primary sampling units are located. Now you can see they're across most of the US. One of the ones that you can't see very well because of the title is Dallas, Texas. Actually, there's 2 primary sampling units there side by side. There's Dallas County and there's, and forgive me if I say this wrong, Tarrant County, which covers Fort Worth. So those are 2 large sampling units in terms of truck crash volume. So we're currently analyzing the data from 2018 and 19, which we think will be more representative than the 2020 crash data because of COVID. And we're using that data on truck crashes in MCMAS to better understand how many crashes we can expect to see in these PSUs. And so one of the decision points we have is, how are we going to distribute our crash and truck inspectors? We're calling them GO teams. And so how many GO teams will you have? For example, in the ones in the PSUs where there's an anticipated large number of truck crashes, we may have 2 or even 3 go teams, and they will be there to operate 24/7 to get crashes. In some of the smaller ones where we don't expect there to be very many truck crashes at all, but we need this nationally representative sample, we may just look at paying overtime to have a crash investigator do that outside of their regular normal time. And so we're trying to get the best bang for our buck so we can collect those 2,000 crashes. So we have drafted a set of research questions, and we've provided them to FMCSA leadership, to NHTSA, and to CVSA for comment on those questions. We've sort of broken them out into these following areas: what the driver causal factors, vehicle factors, and motor carrier factors. We are hoping to be able to trace back from the driver and vehicle to the carrier to see if there is a carrier issue that's involved in these crashes. And of course, we'll look at environmental and external factors such as roadway design and weather. And we want to take a look at the role of light vehicles in large truck crashes. We're not just going to focus on the truck. We're going to focus on the automobiles and SUVs and small pickups as well. And so we're going to use these research questions to identify what data sources we can use and what data elements we will want to collect, and how that data will be collected, whether it will be collected on scene, it will be derived information, or it'll be linked from off-scene data sources. So currently we're in the process of finalizing those research questions and identifying the data sources, which will help us identify the individual data elements that we will want to collect. We've been identifying risks and potential delays. One of them has been COVID. If the COVID pandemic lingers, although it doesn't look like it's going to now, that could affect our starting of the pilot and the training of the investigators, and definitely the data collection. And another one is NHTSA is in the process of letting a new crash data collection contract, and that's the new contract that we plan on using for this study. And so we can't get started until that contract is in place. So at this moment, we are setting up working groups to tackle key areas. We're calling on some experts to give us some advice on the sample design and how to do this. About that notification system, what's the best way for us to be notified by the state or local police when there's an accident that meets the criteria for our study, and on the data collection, just which data elements that we are going to do. And we've been hosting bi-weekly meetings with NHTSA on study planning, so we're well into this. So that's an overall view of the large truck crash causal factor study. I've included my email for if you want to contact me, and also Jenny Guarino's. Jenny is the project manager. I get to fill in for her at this conference because she's on vacation, and Idaho, finally getting to see her family in about a year. And so that's her contact information as well. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Great, thanks for that information, Bill. Appreciate it. Do we have any questions for Bill here in the room? And Dustin, do we have any online?
Looks like lunchtime.
Yeah, I got you out in time for lunch.
We can't let Bill go quite that fast. Bill, I'm kind of curious, do you think the study time frame is long enough that you'll be able to get data on 2,000 crashes?
Well, I said we were looking at the 2018 and 19 data, and we looked at it for those 32 PSUs and for trucks, Class 7 and 8 trucks that involved an injury, according to our definition, which is basically a serious injury or fatality. and there were 4,310 crashes in that 2-year period in those PSUs. And based on some analysis we've done on how many crashes a Go team can do, because it's more than just going to the scene. They've got to come back and sort through the data, turn it into the database. So we figure they can get about at least 50% of those crashes. So that should get us our 2,000. That again will all be dependent upon that notification system and some improvements that we hope to make in that.
Right, right, sounds good. And just from a university research perspective, you did say there will be a public use data set available after this?
Yes, like there was with the LTCCS, we will have a public use data set. Of course, it'll all be anonymized information, but as with the last study there, it has had multiple use by researchers, both in industry and academia and by FMCSA.
Great, thanks again. Just to double check, Dustin, any other questions come in?
It is all clear.
All right, great, thank you much. Thanks again, Bill, I appreciate your time here.